Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
At Don Miller Subaru West, we believe in being a positive force in our local community. Together with our customers, we have been able to sponsor and support local charities and nonprofits. Don Miller Subaru West has once again partnered with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of the Upper Plains region. Our donations have helped fund cutting-edge research to cure cancer and improve the quality of life for so many. Helping those in need, that's the Subaru Love Promise. Don Miller Subaru West, more than a car dealer.
From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
So I was watching here in the studio. Fox News was taking the L.A. County Sheriff, and I guess one of the firestorms has calmed down. But here at Day 5, it's still a very, very, very difficult story. And we're going to bring in a great friend who's on the ground in L.A., my pal Steve Hilton, political commentator and advisor, Fox News contributor. And Steve's got a new book out coming out in March, Califailure, Reversing the Ruin of America's Worst-Run State. Steve, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it very, very much. What's the news out there today? Before we dig into the policy problems, what's the news out there as you read it?
Well, it's one step forward, one step back. We had a feeling that things were getting a bit more under control. You had the ability for the aerial effort to stop some of these fires, but then we saw the Palisades fire go to a whole new territory. You had a whole increase in the evacuation area, threatening a whole new neighborhood of Brentwood and West LA. Actually, not too far from the Fox News bureau in LA, we could see the fire. The new expansion of it, and so it's absolutely as much of a crisis as it's ever been. They haven't got a handle on it. It is not under control, and I'm afraid we're still in this absolute emergency with no sign right now of it coming to an end. And the winds are predicted to get worse in the next few days. I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously, predictions can turn out to be wrong, but we're still right in the thick of it.
Well, let's pray for them, everybody, and you. I think you were saying last night in the TV show about the problem of red tape and regulations,
yes,
both during the fire and then rebuilding after the fire. And there's a big story in the Wall Street Journal today. The estimates are ranging now upwards of $150 billion. Probably nobody knows. But there's an insurance crisis going on out there, too. It may not be that the people on the ground are worried about insurance and money right now, but it's going to come home to roost. And some of those problems are created because the laws in California put a ceiling. It's like, public utilities. They won't let them charge the kind of premiums that they have to charge. And then I think it was you that said Governor Schwarzenegger suspended regulations to rebuild after the Northridge earthquake. Was that you last night?
Yeah. It was
Which is a terrific point.
There's two. I mean, let's just start with the insurance point, Larry. And everyone has to understand that this is not – and one of the most disgraceful things among many that I've heard this week from Democrat politicians is Kamala Harris, who seems to be completely absent from the whole situation, launching into an attack on the insurance companies for pulling out. Why did they pull out? Because of her party's policies. This crisis, the insurance crisis, is man-made and made by Democrat policies and politicians, just like every other aspect of it. There are two parts to it. Exactly as you were saying, there's the artificial price caps, just the same kind of socialist approach that she was touting in the election campaign, by the way, when she was saying she's going to, put price caps on the grocery stores or whatever. Same concept. That's what they've been doing in California. People may not know that we have an elected statewide insurance commissioner in California. So it's a politician who's elected just to focus on insurance. And for years now, not just the current guy, Ricardo Lara, but the previous guy, have been putting artificial caps on the insurance companies so they can't raise rates in a way that matches the risk. And of course they've been pulling up. There's another aspect to it which has got less attention. That's the fact that the cost of building anything in California is so astronomical as a result of the environmental regulations, the labor regulations, the delays because of permitting and bureaucracy. And so it costs 4 or 5 times as much to build the exact same floor plan or extension or rebuild something here in California as it does just across the border in Nevada or Arizona or whatever. So the costs of insuring anything are much higher because it costs so much more to rebuild. And so those things together is what's forcing out the insurance companies coming to the red tape. I mean, it was Governor Wilson in relation to Northridge in terms of the earthquake, Schwarzenegger in terms of a massive disaster in San Francisco that took out a whole freeway complex, and both of them in different ways did exactly what you're talking about. They completely suspended the rules, both state and federal actually, to allow rebuilding in record time. For example, the Santa Monica Freeway, many people may have been on it, the 10 in Los Angeles, they said that would take 2 years to rebuild after the earthquake. They got it done in 84 days. Who can imagine that that's the kind of attitude you're going to get from these ideologues who are in charge of California today? Because it's that whole attitude of endless nanny state bureaucracy and rules and regulations and endless interfering with everything that has partly brought us to this point.
Pete Wilson, you ever met Pete Wilson? He's a wonderful man.
He's a wonderful man. I had a great conversation with him about it. He's great.
Oh, my gosh.
Gave me some great advice.
Yeah, no, he was a great senator. He was a great governor. I believe he was mayor of San Diego also.
He was, exactly. Fantastic guy.
Did a lot of things. And so the other story that just kind of blows me away was in the New York Post today. The Palisades Reservoir was empty. The thing was just empty. I mean, how is that possible? They say it was under repairs, but it was empty with Santa Ana's coming. And Steve Hilton, maybe I'm wrong, but I've read earlier in the week that people warned L.A. Mayor, what's her name, Karen Bass, that there were big winds coming and that the risks were going to go up. I mean, I know that, weather forecasting is not perfect, but I'm just saying, Trump made a big deal at his press conference saying he wanted, he was going to use federal action to get water down from Northern California and even north of Northern California. Newsom said no, and the reservoir is empty, so no wonder the hydrants were empty.
There's so much that's gone wrong, and you're exactly right. All of this was warned about, and you can add to the list of things that were warned about. I mean, unbelievably, exactly when we knew that the winds were coming. Yes, they were unusually high, but not unusual in the fact that they occurred at this time of year. And this is the moment that they choose to empty the reservoir. It's insane. And this is also the moment, by the way, there was the documentation has emerged that they cancelled the testing of the fire hydrant system. I mean, it's just on and on, the incompetence. But this is the thing the central thing that's going wrong and has gone wrong now for more than a decade in California, right across the board on every issue, is this deadly combination of incompetence and ideological extremism. And those two things together are really at the root cause of so many of these problems we're seeing today.
I wanted you to plug your think tank and what you're doing out there.
Golden Together. Thank you, Larry. So this is something, Golden Together is a policy organization. I set it up a couple of years ago. By the way, we've been publishing reports month after month on all of these issues. Well, people can go to our website and look at it, goldentogether.com. We have a report literally called Water Abundance, about how we get abundant water. We have all the water we need. When you add up the rainfall, the snowfall in the Sierras, we just let it all go out to the ocean. Trump is 100% right about that. 10 years ago, the people of California voted for a bond measure to build water storage. None of it's been built. It's all held up in ridiculous environmental reviews and nonsense. So we've put out a plan on that. We have another plan that we put out over a year ago on modern forest management, about how you clear the brush and the forests and the trees in the Sierra forest, so you don't have this fuel load, which is a massive reason why these fires, and you always get fires, but they burn out of control when the forests and the chaparral are not managed properly. By the way, if it's not rocket science, just not far from Los Angeles, in Orange County, they do a much better job. Very similar conditions in terms of the terrain and the chaparral and the hillsides and residential development right in the middle of all of that. In Orange County, you don't see this kind of thing. It's completely normal, common sense governance, and that's just completely gone in so many parts of California. Now, talking about Golden Together, on Monday, we're publishing, and I'll be doing a press conference in Los Angeles, a set of very specific recommendations for what can be done right now in the short term to help people, but to reform these processes and to help rebuild. Because if they don't make major changes to all of this stuff, this rebuilding process, I mean, right now we're in the middle of the crisis, of course, but the rebuilding, my goodness, it's going to take forever, or maybe not happen at all, unless we make big changes in how the environmental regulations work, the bureaucracy works, the taxes, the fees, everything. It's impossible to do anything in California because of all this nonsense. Got to clear it all away.
Well, the question, I guess, is, for our last minute, you've got, as you said, this left-wing ideology. It's essentially climate change extremism. Yes. That's all. And, I mean, California doesn't lack for revenue. It's the highest tax state in the country, for heaven's sake.
Yes.
So, that what are the odds that you're going to get reform? What are the odds that you're going to have more common sense policies for water and reservoirs, and protect people rather than obscure fish? That's the question.
Well, there's a very simple answer. The only way that's going to happen, Larry, is people got to stop voting for the people who brought us to this point. It needs political change. And a lot of people hear that and say, well, that's never going to happen. You're never going to get a Republican elected in California. That is simply not true. Even before this, before people really woke up to the destruction, you look what happened in November. Trump got more votes in California than any presidential candidate in history, any Republican in history. There are more than enough votes. 2026 is going to be the chance to get rid of this regime, put in common sense Republican leadership, and there are more than enough votes. If everyone who voted for Trump votes for a Republican candidate in 2026, that person is going to win. Wow. It's very, very possible to get that California revolution I've been talking about for a long time.
All right, Steve Hilton, Fox News contributor, and his new book is coming out in late March, Califailure: Reversing the Ruin of America's Worst Run State. Steve, thanks for last night on TV. Thanks for today on the radio. When you come to New York, we've got to get you on set. You're fabulous. Thanks very much.
Great to be with you, Larry. Thank you.
Folks, so we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to talk to Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst. Unconditional discharge is what Merchant called Trump's decision on sentencing. I say it's unconditional surrender by the woke left. But we got Greg Jarrett coming. I'm Kudlow. Be right back.
Larry Kudlow.